My name's Lennie, and this is my house. I'm reading a bedtime story to my 2 children.
Blue. It took the umbrella from Mr. White and quickly turned it inside out. You see? It grabbed a shirt left out to dry and tossed it upward to the sky. It plucked a hanky from a nose, and up and up and up it rose.
What about blowing through? I thought the page will go.
Go on then, let's blow to the next page. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Great! It lifted the wig from the judge's head and didn't drop it back. Instead, it whirled the postman's letters up as if it hadn't done enough.
Last night, I was reading a story at home to my children. But today, I'm going to tell a story to these children in school.
My work is telling stories. And today's story is The Wind and the Sun.
This is the wind. Here's the sun. And there's the traveller.
We can make the story our own by joining in the actions. When we come to the mountain, you can make a mountain like that with your 2 hands. You put one hand there and the other hand there, a triangle, and you make the 2 sides of the mountain like that, pointing up to the sky.
You could have a straight bit in the air.
Yeah, you could make any sort of mountain you like, really. Up to the sky, like that. And when we come to the sun, you could make a great big smile in the sky, like that, can't you? Going round and round and round until you make a big circle for the sun. We start down there, such a smile that the corners of the sun's mouth meet right at the top. And that could be the sun, and you could do that too. And when we come to the wind, you could take a deep breath in, like the wind, and you could blow like the great north wind. A deep breath in, and a blow. And when we come to the traveller climbing up the mountain, you can take your 2 hands, and you can bring them up, and you can pull your cloak tightly about your shoulders to keep you from the cold. But before we do the story, I'm going to play a little bit of music, which I think sounds very much like the sun. The sun got into an argument. The wind was saying how strong he was, how very much stronger than the sun he was, how he was probably the strongest creature in the whole world. But the sun wasn't arguing back. The sun was just sitting there in the sky, just listening. Why, said the wind, I'm so strong that I could probably blow all the stars out of the sky. Why don't we have a competition, said the wind. What shall we do, said the sun. Well, said the wind, you see that man climbing that mountain over there? And the sun looked, and he saw the man climbing the mountain. Yes, I can see, said the sun. Well, said the wind, whichever one of us, you the sun or me the wind, can get the cloak off his back, well, that person will be the stronger. With all my heart, said the sun. All right, said the wind, all right, me first. And the wind went over to the mountain, and he took 1 step back, and he took 1 breath in, and he blew. And he blew so hard that he blew all the leaves off the trees and all the feathers off the birds, and he blew the twigs off the branches, and he snapped the tree trunks double. And the man climbing up the mountain, he said, goodness me, this is a cold day. And he pulled his cloak even more tightly about his shoulders to keep him from the cold. Said the wind. Try again. Have another go. So he took 1 step back, 2 steps back, and he took 1 breath in, and he took 2 breaths in, and he blew, and he blew, and he blew so hard that he blew all the ships out of the water and all the flags off the poles. And the man climbing up the mountain said, "Goodness me, this is a very, very cold day indeed." And he pulled his cloak even more tightly about his shoulders, to keep him from the cold. Said the wind. "I'll have another go, I'll have another go. Best out of 3, best out of 3. So he took 1 step back, 2 steps back, 3 steps back, and he took 1 breath in, 2 breaths in, 3 breaths in, and he blew, and he blew, and he blew, and he blew so hard that it sounded like a million monsters and demons raging and screaming and howling around the mountain. And the man climbing up the mountain said, "Goodness gracious me, this is quite the coldest day I've ever climbed a mountain on." And he pulled his cloak even more tightly about his shoulders to keep him from the cold. And the wind, he was exhausted, and he sank back against a rock, and he couldn't blow anymore, and he was tired, and he hadn't got the cloak from the man's back, had he? "My turn now," said the sun. And the sun stood there in the sky, and he opened up his great golden cloak so that his sunny beams trickled down through the air and warmed the land and warmed the sea. And he smiled. And the man, climbing up the mountain, he said, "Goodness me, it's quite a warm day after all." And he undid his cloak a little bit at the top. And the sun smiled and smiled. And the man climbing up the mountain said, "Goodness gracious me, this is quite the warmest day I've ever climbed a mountain on." And he took his cloak off, and he put it over his arm, and he reached the top of the mountain.
The sun had won.
Which bit of the story did you like best?
When he kept huffing and puffing.
Who, the wind? Huffing and puffing.
What does the sun give us? Who can tell us? What does the sun give us?
You can't live without sun.
You can't live without sun. That's true, isn't it? You can't live without sun. Nothing will grow without the sun.
Here is the traveller, and the wind puffing and blowing. And now the sun in all its splendor. The wind tries to break the sun's power, but the sun fights back. The wind chases the poor traveller and blows cold on him. The wind surrounds the traveller. The wind tries to make him take off his cloak, but the traveller draws it more closely to his neck. The sun rises, and the traveller is drawn by its warmth. The traveller circles the sun, he opens up his cloak and lets it fall to the ground. The sun has won. Well, the sun won again. Poor old wind. A paper bag? A kite out of a paper bag? That's funny, isn't it? You're going to put potatoes and apples in it.
No, when to fly my kite.
You stick a bit up.
The sunshine line. I draw the face on it.
There.
What are you going to do with all these kites when you've made them?
We're going to fly them.
If it's a windy day.
And it's not raining.
Oh, we couldn't fly paper bag kites when it's raining, I suppose, could we?
Go all soggy.
They'd go all soggy, wouldn't they?
Finish the top.
Some older children are helping the younger ones with their kites.
Hang on, that's Suzanne's.
Now you can make some bows on your own, can't you? Look everyone, we've made our tail. It's pretty, isn't it? As did you make?
Show how to stick the tail on now. Okay. Get the glue. Now put a double glue just there. That's lovely. Now stick it on just there.
I've done it.
Oh, dear. Press it. That's right. Okay, we're going to put the string through now. Cut out a hole here.
Doesn't stay
And
on.
make this one a bit bigger because it's rather small.
It isn't staying on.
Okay. And now we've got to get the string
It is coming off there.
like this. Now, can you thread this end through that hole?
This is a short piece of string that goes across the top of the kite.
Oh, can I do this?
Now, this looks a bit harder. Can you thread that through there?
Then you add a long piece of string,
Pull it through.
and it's ready.
Look, there it is.
Not much wind today, but never mind. Hundreds and hundreds of kites. Maybe you'd like to make one. Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.
Tomorrow afternoon, just
Storytime.
Hello, my name's Harry. I'm looking at my family photograph album. I've got 3 children, and they're called Emily, Dan, and Josh. Emily and Dan are grown up now, but Josh is still at school. Here we are, all together. But you know what I like to do? I like remembering back when they were little. So, here they are when Emily was 9, Dan was 7, and Josh was 5. Usually, they were good children. But of course, as in most families, there were plenty of times when they quarreled. I remember one day in particular. It was Daniel's 4th birthday party, and everything was going very well until it came time for Daniel to blow out the candles on his birthday cake. Well, he blew and he blew, but he couldn't blow them out. And suddenly, Emily leaned over and she blew them out in one go. Well, Dan was furious, and the two of them began to fight. In the meantime, we lit the candles again, but Emily and Dan were still squabbling. And Josh, who was all of 2 at the time, there he is. Well, he toddled across the room, and what do you think? He blew them out. Everybody thought that was very funny. Even Emily and Dan, which was a good job. Anyway, in the end, Dan blew the candles out himself, and the party got going again. You know, when I think about it now, I can understand why Daniel was annoyed, because after all, you don't expect to share something like blowing out the candles on your own birthday cake, do you? Mind you, there are plenty of other things you can share, like toys, for instance. We're going to see some children talking about sharing things. There's a boy with a guitar, and he doesn't want the strings broken. And there's a girl who wants to share her sister's jewelry. Now, see which one you agree with.
It's difficult to share because when I buy new toys, they always want to play with it. I don't let my sister play with my bagel or my cars because she breaks one of my cars and one's already broken.
My little brother, when I have the toys, my little brother takes all my toys and hits me with them. When I tell my mum, my little brother goes in the toilet and locks the door.
My big sister won't share her jewellery because it's hers. I won't share my sticker brick because they're mine.
I say, give it to me, or I tell our uncle. He says, give it to Tolu. And if you don't give it to Tolu, I won't give you some ice cream, because that's the best food.
I've got a guitar and I won't let Charlie share it because she might break the strings which make the noise. That's fair.
Well, maybe you've got something very precious that you don't want broken either. But you know, most things you can share just by taking turns. You don't always have to say, "It's mine." We've got a song now called It's Mine. It's all about 2 brothers who fight over a new chair that's all red and shiny. It's nice, it's new, it's not for you.
I've got a new chair, a red and shiny new chair. I like my new chair, it's for me. You mustn't have this chair, don't you know it's my chair? I'm going to sit on it all day long. It's nice, it's new, it's not for you. It's my chair, so there. Who says it's your chair? Give it back, it's my chair. Go and find another chair. 1, 2, 3. You're going to break the chair. You're not being very fair. We're going to have to share. Sit with me. It's nice, it's new, it's made for 2. It's our chair. So there.
I've got a new chair, too. It's not all red and shiny, but it's mine. All mine! Well, it is until someone else wants to share it. We've got a book called It's Mine. It's all about 3 quarrelsome frogs called Milton, Rupert, and Lydia. It's funny that, because as you know, I've got 3 children. Oh, I'm certainly glad they weren't as bad as these 3 frogs, who quarreled and quibbled from dawn to dusk and would never share anything. Let's see what happened to them, shall we? In the middle of Rainbow Pond, there was a small island. On the island lived 3 quarrelsome frogs, named Milton, Rupert, and Lydia. They quarreled and quibbled from dawn to dusk. "Stay out of the pond," yelled Milton. "The water is mine." Get off the island, shouted Rupert. The earth is mine. The air is mine, screamed Lydia, and she leapt to catch a butterfly. And so it went on. One day, a large toad appeared before them. I live on the